Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world,
three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
and that's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Throw game for the win! Tyrese! The terror! Don't you open your mouth about that! You talk them to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kid stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine light, jet flying, son of a gun. Taylor's gone. Jonathan Taylor. Goodbye, touchdown, Indy.
Not a game, not a game, not a game. We're talking about practice.
I'm never taking a back seat to anybody and don't plan on starting now. Woo! IU! America! They got a football team now!
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
But there's no doubt about it, yeah, you mean Gene Okerlund. You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome into the Friday edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, high atop Brick House number 1 on a beautiful and crisp Friday before a very, very big game for Indiana as the football Hoosiers welcome in the Michigan Wolverines. Welcome aboard. Thanks a lot for being here with us as always. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you, no matter where and how you're listening, whether it's on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, down on the river in the north or the southwest corner of the state. Always the right call. Was on there, been on there a couple times here recently with Brad, and as well as oh my goodness, call me Kyle. But always fun to be on there, and of course up in the region on 12:30 a.m. 104.7 FM WJOB, the voice of the region, taking care of everybody up in the Hammond area, all across Chicagoland. Tons of IU fans up there, Big Ten fans, of course. Chicago, Indiana's second largest city in America for alumni behind Indianapolis. And over in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne Sports Station, the only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it tuned right here to these stations for more content coming at you, local content as well at that. With we've got plenty of that coming as the Colts try to get things back in order. Matt Taylor will join us today. They're playing the quarterback shuffle, of course. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, the IU Insider, will talk mostly Indiana football. As this is a, you know, it's not being hyped to be, but this is one of the biggest games in Indiana football history. Because of what's at stake. they just can't lose. Now, I guess you could say that again. If this was Maryland, would you say that? Probably not. But you haven't lost to Maryland every time you played them, save for maybe 3 times in the last, I don't know, 5 decades or something. That's why it's still new. Now, Indiana and Michigan and Indiana, Ohio State are still different. Indiana has beaten Michigan straight up. They've beaten them during the COVID year. They did not get Ohio State. They got close. Should have won that game. Made too many mistakes. But it's just, that's why it's viewed as a big game, number one. But number two, they have to win. All the talk that I make and everyone else, it doesn't matter how positive, if they have to win. But with that said, love that. With that said, I do not expect Indiana to have, I don't want to say not have any problems, because that would be disingenuous. Michigan has a very tough defensive line. I mean, they have 3 potential NFL draft picks, I think. But their passing defense is not the best. So they've got that against them. Their run defense, they should be leading the conference and in the defensive rush defense, but I don't know that where they are. Indiana is one of the top teams. That's what's ironic here. And Michigan, from an offensive standpoint, they're hamstrung. They don't have a passing game. They don't really have a starting, quote unquote, starting quarterback. They got a guy that they will start, but they're going to alternate because they just don't have a guy. I mean, if Taven Jackson were there, he'd be starting for them. And Indiana is just, again, too complete. They're just too complete of a team. Indiana's passing game is going to, I think, eviscerate Michigan. While Michigan has a good defensive line, like I've said, Indiana's offensive line is pretty damn good as well. They're really damn well. They do really damn well. They're really good. They do a great job. I've got on a different stat board here than I wanted to, but I'm just curious because I know Indiana's, because I look at these stats all the time, but I can't remember where Michigan was specifically in here we go. Here's the one I'm looking for. In rushing defense. Because I don't recall that they stood out. Even from a team standpoint, are they even on this? Wow. No, they're not. They're 8th. So it's better than average, but they should be much, much, much better than average. Crazy. But anyway, doesn't matter. I digress. Indiana is it keeps jumping around. You can get 13.5, and I've seen 14.5. But Indiana is a 2-score touchdown over Michigan. That's never happened in my lifetime, your lifetime, your dad's lifetime, your grandpa's lifetime. Just hasn't happened. And someone that would know great. I am so happy. We've had great guests all week, but and I mentioned Matt Taylor will be with us. Zach Osterman will be on with us. Todd Lirry as Indiana gets its second basketball game. But Mike Deal is joining us today, and I am fired up. But you know what? I've got to send out the links to these fine folks as well. So, yeah, that would be something very smart to do. But Mike Deal is an IU Hall of Famer. He was on he played on the 1967 Rose Bowl team. But so much more than that. And first of all, I believe that the Deals are the first family of Indiana football, without question. Their father, Russ, was on the 1945 undefeated Big Ten championship team. So that starts it rolling. Then Mike is an IU. Well, you've got Mark, his brother, who has been around the IU program for a long time, played, coached, and has been involved with the varsity club, I believe, but has been around the program for quite some time. And then we've got Mike today, who IU Hall of Famer. All three of these guys are in the Hall of Fame that I just mentioned. On the 6th Rose Bowl team, Big Ten champion, Blue-Gray All-Star game, as was his father, Senior Bowl, signed with the Redskins as a free agent, coached at a ton of places that I'll tell you about in a ton of different bowl games. It's amazing what a ride he's had. So look forward to talking to him about that. And getting his perspective on Indiana basketball then and now, because I'm sure it was extraordinarily exciting then. Just did not have the social media, all of that stuff that goes with today's environment, today's games, today's sports. And so I'm looking forward to it. I didn't realize how decorated Mike was, and that the entire family is in the IU Hall of Fame. That's kind of crazy. We're going to take a quick break, a little pause for the cause from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, as looking forward to getting Todd Lirry on. Indiana basketball gets its second game this Sunday, as it is a busy weekend on the Indiana Bloomington campus. They will welcome in Eastern Illinois this Sunday, right after church at noon. So gonna have to hustle grandma out and get over. We've got lots more coming up here from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages from Hard Truth. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
What up?
What's up?
Yeah, I was slow getting everything out this morning. I forgot I had to make that daggum thumbnail.
Well, worked out fine for me. Perfect timing.
How's your weekend looking, man?
Indiana wins. It'll be good.
A little noon game.
It's been a while since my weekend success was based on IU football.
Oh, I thought you were talking about basketball.
Oh, nope. I don't even know who they're playing Sunday.
It's that. Oh man, have you been to a football game? That's a lot to mess with.
Yeah. I'm not good at that.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Friday of a big sports weekend. Lots going on. The Colts play on Sunday. The Hoosiers play welcome in Michigan on Saturday, and basketball on Sunday as well. So tons going on. Todd Lirry joins us from myjumpshot.com. And how has your week been, man?
It's been good. Been a good week. Excited for the football game this weekend. So a lot going on.
In the break, we were talking, and I asked about your weekend. You said, "Oh, it'd be good if IU wins," and I just assumed we were talking basketball, and it turned out no, that's not what he meant. And so,
not what I meant.
Have you ever uttered that phrase in your life?
No, not even close. Not even remotely close. And it's just, you were one of the people, I give you a lot of credit. You were one of the people before the season started that said they had this chance of going into the Michigan game being undefeated. And, I didn't agree with you, and I thought they would at least have one loss at this point. But, it's so exciting. Like, the whole town is excited. The fan base obviously is excited. It's a different atmosphere that I have never experienced before in the city of Bloomington. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then. But and I don't know it was just everything, because I've never go off on. I don't.
You're
know,
usually the opposite. You're usually the opposite. You're usually doom and gloom a little bit, but you called it from the beginning. And hey. Don Fisher was kind of the same way. I don't think he was as bold as to predict it as being 9-0, but something was different. I knew based on Fish's reaction before the season started that he felt different about Coach Signetti, and you did too. And that's, you guys believed in it. I think we've all just kind of heard that stuff before, so we didn't get to witness Signetti in person like you guys did in conferences and that stuff, and so. It was a great call on your part. They obviously are doing things the whole nation is talking about right now.
Absolutely, and thank you. But I wish I could take the credit. But I'll tell you, if you had the opportunity to be around Signetti, you would have this. You would have been the same way, because you were around Coach Knight, and there are a lot of similarities. There's a lot of differences, but there are a lot of similarities from his approach, from a coaching standpoint. How I'm very fortunate to have you on with us, because I've learned so much from you about all of that, and how it was just practicing to be. You're never going to be perfect, but practicing to be perfect, and how you guys were. It was dependent upon your decision making. So that trust was put into you guys, but you were taught, and you went over it. Well, these guys are the same way. They don't make those mistakes. And it's odd to see that, because you never thought you'd see that again, in any sport, but it is definitely it's definitely something that resonates or that I see from him.
Yeah. And, like you can tell just watching his press conferences, the things that he says, I'll tell you, watching his demeanor on the sidelines, you can tell he is very locked into the minute details of things. And that couldn't epitomize Coach Knight any more than what it was. There would be games on the scoreboard it looked like we played great, and he was really upset about some things that we didn't do that maybe we had prepared for or worked on and that stuff. And he was I try to explain this to people over the years, but Coach Knight, if you followed the rules and you did the things that we were supposed to do and the other team still scored or they beat you or did whatever, Coach Knight was not upset. If you followed the rules and we did the things that we were supposed to do Indiana style, he didn't get mad if things went wrong. Now, when you veered away from the game plan or didn't execute something the way that we were supposed to do it, that's when he got his most upset. And I think you see a lot of the same stuff from Coach Cignetti, and that's obvious. Like, you pick up on that. Like, you watch that and see that, and I know that's one of the things Fish said from the beginning at practices was, the tiniest detail. He was all over. He wasn't letting guys slide by on drills and doing things. He was very adamant about executing the small, tiny details. And that just is Coach Knight over and over again. And so that's the part of it that I enjoy watching, as what you're playing for Coach Knight, seeing another coach be successful with that, same mantra or, just absolutely paying attention to all the tiny little details is it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and he's got a great personality.
He does.
And, he's engaging with the people. He resonates. But Coach Knight resonated with the people. Winning resonates with people. Period. But there's a lot of different things that are going on there. And man, to do what he's done, it's changing.
Shake your head. You just shake your head. That's exactly what you do.
It almost leaves you speechless. But boy, now I'm talking about this. Indiana better be ready to get that checkbook out.
100%. I've been saying that from the beginning. I mean, as soon as you said they had a chance at being 9-0 heading into the Michigan game, I said if that's the case, they better be willing to write a big old check. And I honestly, I'm not surprised. I don't know why I'm saying it that way. It wouldn't shock me if Dolson came out and just said right now, hey, we're going to pay him whatever he needs. And I think Coach Cignetti is one of those people that I don't think would take overly advantage of that opportunity. I think he was going to get a big raise. He's going to get a big raise no matter what.
Right. But I think he's more concerned with his assistants and support staff and having the resources that he needs to year in and year out put out a top level competitive football program.
And that's, I don't want to say he's giving himself an out in all of the interviews that I've seen with him and that he's done, but that's the one outlier of what he says. He says he loves Indiana. He says his wife loves Indiana. I get all of that, but he always leaves it a little bit open and saying, as long as we have the resources, because we all know, it's not hidden. Like, there are better resources financially in the SEC football wise than there is in the Big Ten. Outside of maybe Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, no one else is on that level financially in the Big Ten. The SEC, most of them are at that level, if not higher. And so we would be crazy, I think, to just assume he's going to, because he loves it here at Indiana, not take a look at those big numbers, because those numbers are going to be gigantic. I mean, it's going to be $10 million a year. That's my opinion. I mean, but at the end of the day, the way it all shakes out, it's going to be $10 million a year. And what, if he goes, let's just say it's great. He goes 11-1, 12-1, or 11-2 at Indiana. I mean, can you improve on that in year two? I don't know. He probably thinks he can, but
I'm like, where that was a question. Where do you go from here?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do for an encore?
I mean, proving that's, I hate to Bill Walton and keep continuing back referring to my days of playing, but I mean, that's really all I have to go off of it. And I'll say that's one of the challenges I think Coach Knight loved. He loved having, people would say, okay, well, they had an undefeated season, should have had 2 in a row. And he loves that build up of trying to do it again and trying to continue the excellence. And it's not easy. There's a lot of flash in the pan, 1 year schools and teams that do well, but to be able to consistently do it when teams are gunning for you. Hey, when he did his first press conference at the basketball game, what did he say? Purdue sucks, Ohio State sucks, Michigan sucks. Well, what's that? His next 3 games, 3 of the next 4 games. So,
the next 3.
The next 3, yeah, they get a chance to prove it. It's a fun conversation to be able to have. We've never been in this position before, Jim. Like it's fun for us to be talking about this in mid-November.
Oh, absolutely, because we know that the football season is going into January with one exception if they were to lose their first round college football playoff game. Otherwise, and I've got to start looking at the bowls because the bowls are still a part of the college football playoff, the top 6 bowls. So, but if you're not in that, then what are now the highest standalone bowl games? I'm gonna have to get a chart and all kinds of stuff going on in here. It's crazy, but I do know that the Big Ten champion, whoever wins the Big Ten championship, they will, as part of the college football playoffs, they will play in the Rose Bowl as still a recognition of the Big Ten's relationship. They're doing that for at least 2 more years. So the Big Ten champion will play in the Rose Bowl. How that would just be crazy. But even though they played in Pasadena this year already, maybe it's an omen. Like, we had some practice. That was
business trip. Business trip.
Yeah.
Remember, that's what he said. It's a business trip.
Right. And speaking of which, we've got on the program today, Mike Deal, man. He played on that team.
Oh, wow.
His dad played on the 1945 undefeated Rose Bowl, or not Rose Bowl, but undefeated Big Ten championship team. And then his brother Mark also played at IU in the 70s. I think he started coaching during the Holiday Bowl, but still around the program, has been for all those years. All 3 of those guys in the Hall of Fame. It's crazy. There's your first family of IU football. That's crazy. That's a rarity in sports. But Indiana basketball plays again on Sunday. Just continuing to get better at everything, I guess. 3-point shooting. What are your expectations? What do they need to work on? What do you want to see out of them on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, just about what you said. I mean, just continuing to improve. I think we're all kind of going into these games wanting to see improvement until they get to, where are they at? Panama or whatever the Battle for Atlantis is.
Bahamas.
Yeah, Bahamas. So, I mean, that those games will let us know where they're at. And hey, like this team, I don't let them pass the eye test early in the season very often. I'm pretty nitpicky when it comes to a lot of things. And this team does a lot of really good things, especially on the defensive end of the ball. And I know this early coaches are going to say, defense wasn't that great the other night or whatever, but they've got the pieces. Like they've got the guys that put pressure on the ball. Kanan Carlisle and Miles Rice, like those 2 guys are not guards you want to play against. I was really impressed with some things in the game the other night. Obviously some things they need to work on. If they don't shoot the ball well, it's always going to be difficult to win. I think we saw the girls in that scenario last night getting beat at home by Harvard. They just didn't shoot the ball very well. And when you shoot the ball that poorly, it's hard to win at this level, even if you're playing at home against the team you're supposed to smack. And they've got to continually be able to shoot the ball better. I don't think they can obviously rely on Mbako scoring 31 every game. I do think he'll have more of a breakout year. But when the ball's going in the way that it is for him the other day, it just looks effortless and looks easy. But yeah, they've got to have other guys step up. There's got to be more than 3 guys make 3-pointers for them. There's got to be more than 8 points off the bench. So those are the things you can look for in these kind of games to get more people involved and just keep building on the success that they're having earlier in the year, because I think they are having success. They're a good team. They've got the makeup for a really good team.
Yeah, they're not that far away, especially the 3-point shooting kind of caught on the other night. It's still early. They've had one real game that counts. Right. And so, and they don't get a lot more to work it out until they go down to the Bahamas. And those are going to be some serious tests. Yep. Start with Louisville. If you can get through Louisville, you're probably going to get Gonzaga. Arizona's down there. Oklahoma. It's a pretty stern test. So we'll definitely find out then. But it takes a few games. Do you remember the first game of the season on any time, what it was like then as opposed to later on?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's a little different now because just like the practices are a little different. So you remember we used to start October 15th and practices were hell for 2 solid weeks. I mean, they were 2-a-days, and then on the weekends they were 3-a-days. Like, it was awful for 2 solid weeks. So we couldn't wait for that first game. Even the exhibition games were like a day off because, you're only, I'll say, practicing that once, as long as you don't do anything stupid. And so, at that point, you're looking forward to those game day opportunities because everything is just a little less intense on those days when it comes to practices. Were hard and practices were intense early in the season. Now, flip-flop that to the Big Ten. Once the Big Ten starts in January, practices were super easy. But early in the year, you just couldn't wait to get those games going because it broke up the practice routine that was so difficult. It's a little different now. They start practice earlier and they're a little less intense, I think. There's no October 15th, 2 solid weeks of crazy practices. They start earlier, it's spread out a little bit more. But the players, you want to get on the floor as much as possible and just go through the experience and that stuff. Game days are fun. They're the running out of the tunnel, seeing the crowd, that part of it is fun and exciting, and you start to take that for granted as you get a little older in the program. But that that's the part of it early in the season. You just want games to come around because you want those game reps as much as possible.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm glad it's not me, baby. I remember some of those days, but
this body couldn't take it today. I know that.
Oh boy, golf's hard enough. That's all the contact sport I can take, I think, anymore.
That's right.
Todd Lirry from myjumpshot.com. If you know a kid or have a kid that needs some work on their jump shot as the basketball season is rolled around, go to myjumpshot.com. You'll get that taken care of. Yep. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Love you.
You betcha. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. And, of course, we're going to make the return right after these messages.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Oh yeah, we got shit went along there. Dang it. Thanks a lot for being with us today, people. All you listening on YouTube or podcast, I guess. Make sure if it's via YouTube, you hit the subscribe button, please. And if it's on Facebook, just go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button. That way you never miss a thing. Notifications toggle. We've got tons of content that is constantly being added. Post-game interviews, post-game shows, etc. And almost forgot. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, heading into the a big sports weekend. Looking forward to it as Indiana welcomes Michigan in to the Rock tomorrow, Indiana's Memorial Stadium, for a 3:30 contest on CBS Sports. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson. That's going to be, well, I won't really get to listen to it, I guess, but that would be weird. Used to him calling Auburn or, Georgia, any of those SEC games they had for so long. But now they got the Big Ten. But Indiana on CBS tomorrow, it is tomorrow. And then Indiana basketball on Sunday. The Colts are on Sunday. I think was the Pacers play tonight again, I think. I can't remember. I'd have to pull that up. But Indiana ranked 8th in this week's college football playoff rankings. Let's see what happens this week. I think there's one game. Yeah. Georgia travels to Ole Miss to take on Lane Kiffin, and the Rebels. My favorite daughter's a Rebel. I only have one daughter, you all. I only have one kid, you all. But yeah, Ole Miss, when you look at the stats, all these national stats that Indiana is so high in, there's only one other team that is, first of all, on both sides of the ball with scoring offense and scoring defense besides Indiana, and that's Ole Miss. As I pull those up here, Indiana is they're 7th overall as scoring defense, and I can't remember exactly where Ole Miss. Where's Ole Miss? They're 6th. They're right in front of Indiana. So it's Ole Miss is 13.2 points per game. Indiana 13.6. So that's basically a wash. So you've got Ole Miss there on the scoring defense side, and then on as scoring offense, Indiana, of course. Well, they're number 2 in the country behind Miami at 46.6 points per game. Ole Miss, they're at number 4, 42 points per game. Those are the only 2 teams that are, I believe, in the top 10 on both sides of that. I haven't completely gone through the entire thing, but I'm fairly certain of that. But my point being is that's who Georgia's playing this weekend. Ole Miss has been an anomaly, though. I mean, an enigma. They lose to Kentucky at home in Oxford somehow. I don't know how that happened. Then I think they lost another game by a field goal, maybe at LSU. So this is not an easy win for Georgia, which, as hard as this is to believe, would impact if Indiana wins this weekend and beats Michigan, say Georgia loses, Indiana would be ranked higher than Georgia in the college football playoff poll come next Tuesday. Now we're getting insane. You want to get crazy? Yeah, we're getting crazy there. But that's where we are in these conversations now. It's nuts, but that's real, and it's still, even for me, it's hard to get used to. And I am wondering. Someone asked me again the other day about, is there pressure on Woodson because of football? Well, no, I don't think he feels pressure, period. I really don't. I think he is just completely secure in his position. And as far as, he feels completely secure. So no, I don't think he feels anything. Now, the chatter, that's going to be different. There is definitely going to be chatter, without question. Indiana basketball has no choice but to have a good year because it's year 4 and the resources are there, have been there. So that would become an issue. I'm quite certain of that when that happens, but may not even be anything that the fans have to worry about it. All you have to do is win. Winning cures all. I say that all the time. Winning cures everything, and it does. People forget their lives when they're winning. Look at Indiana football. They've been the worst program in the history of mankind, and yet all of a sudden they're the darling of college athletics, not just college sports, period, right now. There's no one in sports that doesn't know what's going on in Bloomington. I'm serious. Think about it. It doesn't matter if we're talking about guys in the NFL, commentators from the NFL, NBA players, athletes pay attention to sports. And then with the coverage Indiana's been getting, you're on, College Game Day, you're on, Pat McAfee talks about them all the time. It's lightning in a bottle. And if Indiana can I don't want to say maintain it because it's an awful high mark to maintain, but if they can keep riding this wave into normalcy, that is the most unbelievable change in the history of sports. I've never seen, and I understand that the transfer portal is what helped make this happen. It's a lot of things that came together. It was the perfect storm. But it's there and it can stay there. That's the irony. The switch could have just been magically flipped all of a sudden. And for Indiana fans' sake, I hope that is the case. They're a sleeping giant. They have been a sleeping giant in athletics. So, but it's going to be a fun year. Without question, you've got an Indiana basketball team that should be competing for the Big Ten championship. You've got an Indiana football team that is competing for a Big Ten championship. I will say it again. I think they go to Ohio State and upset the Buckeyes. We'll get there starting next week, but that will set people on their ear. If you think what Indiana has done so far has gotten all this attention, wait until they do something truly off the reservation and go, oh, don't want to offend anyone, off the whatever, and go to Ohio State and win. All those people that have just railed Indiana about, oh, I haven't played anybody, yada, 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 yada. Who the hell has Penn State played? What's Penn State's best win of the year? Let me ask you, is it winning by 7 at home over Bowling Green? Giving up 24 points? Was that their best win of the year? Was it going to USC, who's 15th in the Big Ten at 2-5 and 4-5 overall and winning 33-30 in overtime? Is that their best win? Just asking for a friend. Or is it going to Wisconsin and winning 28-13? Who the hell is Penn State beaten? They got beat at home by Ohio State. So Penn State is one that is driving me insane. They're not that good. They have a really good defense, and they had a good defense before Tom Allen got there, and I'm sure that he has put his mark on it. And because they were a little shaky to start, the defense shored up. The offense, yeah, they've had some quarterback issues, but yeah, Fat Boy 44. Miami plays in the ACC, so that helps a ton. You look at the Big Ten, 4 out of the top 8 teams in the CFP, SEC is say that's why the SEC and the Big Ten are doing some of the things that they're doing, because they know they have the biggest and the best programs in college football. They're not the only ones, but the Big Ten and the SEC conferences they have more of them. They just go a lot deeper, as opposed to a team who, if a conference is a one-bid league, that's crap, because somebody can just screw the whole daggone thing up. So, yeah, and that's another thing. Everyone likes to rail on Indiana because, they're built on the portal. Well, who the hell isn't? Who doesn't bring in big portal players? They all do. That's what the portal is being used for, people. And what was he supposed to do? The team was 3-9 last year. There's a reason for that, or reasons, multiple reasons. But I can guarantee you one of them was not having the talent needed, not having the right talent needed. So there's that. That's the hard truth, people. That worked in perfect for that. Yeah, Indiana has definitely surpassed any expectations most fans had. That's without question. But that's a good thing. But now going forward, don't go crazy. That's another thing now. I hope you football fans don't get stupid. Don't go crazy and thinking that you're Ohio State or that you're Alabama and you've got 60 years of football tradition. You don't. You are the new kid on the block. Act like you've been there before. Be respectful and just kick them in the butt and roll. Go on. But yeah, I hope Indiana fans take this success as well as the football team is taking the success. But you can use it to a little dig here and there. Nothing wrong with a little dig here and there. They're giving Indiana digs. Go ahead and feel free to pop them back a little bit. But I think Indiana will show them. Yeah, just enjoy the ride, man. Enjoy the fact that this is something that I guarantee you, there are a lot of football fans out there that have been wanting this to happen, hoping for this to happen, and now it's here. So enjoy the heck out of it. Earlier on, there was a lot of people that were, "Oh, I'm just there. I'm with the shoe." Why, and I'm like, no, why? Just enjoy it, man. Brenton saying that the FBI would suggest Penn State's best win was at USC. That was my point. That's exactly my point. Their best win is at USC, according to statistical measures, and USC is 15th in the Big Ten. 15th. They're 2-5. They are behind UCLA. So, I forgot. I'm sorry. It says Penn State on their jerseys. That makes all the difference in the world, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. But eventually that will change because the college game has changed. We're seeing this parity that we talk about. Indiana's part of that. They're not the only one, and they won't be the only one. But it takes great coaching. No doubt you've got fans at Florida who they're not exactly happy, but it looks like Florida's going to stick with Billy Napier for all the Indiana folks that are worried that Florida is going to try to snatch Kurt Cignetti away. I don't see that happening, but yeah, I didn't know that about Alabama, but Colorado, you want to talk about being built on the portal? Why? It was talked about in the first year a lot, but not like it has been at Indiana, but partly because Colorado has not had the success Indiana's had, although they're having a good year. What are they, 6-2 right now? Something like that. But yeah, they have not had the success in year one, but they didn't bring in as many as Colorado. So yeah, crazy. Great point. Thank you. Pecan says he's heard that at least 3 Big Ten coaches sneer at IU building via the portal. I assume that means 3 different coaches of different sports. Okay. Well, one doesn't have to. The soccer program is built how it's built. I have no clue who else that would be. I'll be honest with you. Because, and no one's talking about building via the portal constantly. But this was the first year. It's called a construction project. But I digress. Hey, we've got lots more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, including Mike Deal. Big deal. He is a big deal. Rose Bowl participant. Matt Taylor, Zach Osterman, all joining us on the backside right after this. Holy moly. That was a lot of blabbering for me. I want to. Oh, I know why. They 6-0. Daggone it. Yep. Oh, there's Zach. Hey, Zach, how are you today, man?
Hey, how we doing?
Pretty good, sir. How are you?
Pretty good.
How are the kiddos?
Fine, just banging along.
Georgia's got a big game this weekend.
Who does Georgia play?
At Ole Miss.
That's right. And then they still got Tennessee to come to Athens.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this fine Friday. Appreciate you being with us. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star, IU insider for them. Indiana welcomes in Michigan this weekend, Zach, in addition to having a basketball game on Sunday. But obviously, all eyes are pointed towards Memorial Stadium as it's still new for Indiana to be considered a favorite, and especially in a game like this, in which they're playing an opponent they've beaten like 3 times in 5 decades or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess at some point we probably need to get over it, you know. You know, just kind of this idea that we're not talking about Indiana as a brand as we've known it. But it is, you know, I think it is something people are still figuring out. I think it starts to get a little more real when you see them in the playoff rankings and we have something sort of more tangible to sort of, you know, ascribe to their place in the wider national picture. But still, it's an interesting time.
That it certainly is, and a very, very good time. I talk about the marketing, the advertising, the branding that Indiana is getting, along with the recruiting help. I mean, I can't fathom what a dollar figure would be for all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Wait, do you mean in terms of like what Indiana's like spending, or how much more Indiana?
No, how much they're getting just for?
Yeah, I think there is a fascinating conversation, and it's one that I'm sure Scott Dolson, you know, he's not having. It'll probably be one to sort of revisit once the season is over. But I think we've always all wondered, like, just in hard dollars and cents, what does it look like when Indiana closes the gap in football? Because there's obviously still a cap. Like, there's still a limit. They can't sell as many tickets as Ohio State. They can't sell, you know, as many parking passes as Michigan, that sort of thing. But if you sell all your tickets, if you fill your tailgate lots, if you fill your stadium, if you max out concessions and, what we call game day revenues. So everything that's attached to having people on your athletics campus, in your stadium, around your concession stands, at your gift shops, etc., on football Saturdays. I think it's going to be in the millions in revenue improvement. Now, how many millions? I think that's the interesting question. But I suspect we're probably talking at least a few $1 million that Indiana's going to realize from, having a football program that is more regularly sold out and energized, and, not just you're selling the tickets and the passes, but the fans are filling those seats and spending that money. And then there is, the further sort of spoke out of what happens if you get an extra home game? If Indiana were to host a playoff game, that's 9 home games in a season. That's a huge revenue boost. I think every football home game is something like, I think it's like $5 or $6 million minimum, something like that. I think it might be even more than that. So now you get a playoff game, then you get the TV exposure. Obviously some of those revenues get shared equally among the conferences, but still it just or among the conference members, I should say. But the point is, it's, there is a significant sort of revenue boost I think Indiana's going to see from a season like this, if for nothing else, but it's game day revenues.
Absolutely. And more importantly, it gets people in the habit of coming to these games, as you mentioned, on more of a regular basis. But there are many people that come that don't have tickets to the game. So that is just growing it even in different ways. And it helps the city of Bloomington. There's no doubt that there's more people coming into the city. So it's been a boon all the way around.
No, I think there's no real downside to it economically. I think the question, if you're Indiana, is, as you talk about, trying to retain Curt Cignetti, probably trying to retain different members of his staff and maybe give him even more resources in different areas in different ways. You don't want to spend money before you've made it, but it makes a compelling argument for saying you invest a little bit more resource wise into all those areas, because the revenue that you'll realize for being better will
more than offset it.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Sorry, I kind of got lost in my, there is kind of a, I remember having this conversation. I think it was on our podcast last year about Tom Allen and the buyout, and sort of saying, the money you're going to lose from a lack of fan interest in football next year probably doesn't fully cover the gap, between what you owed Tom. Because I think they owed Tom Allen like 20 and change last year, and it fell to
15, I think, negotiated.
Yeah, but it fell to like 8 or 9 this year. And I didn't think Indiana would lose $11 million in football revenue, but I said, they could lose 4 or 5, and then suddenly you're only talking about saving $6 million. And is it really worth it? And then, of course, obviously they negotiated the buyout down in the end as well. But, just in general, I think it can work in the other direction too, which is, not necessarily that your revenues from football will just go up and up and up and up and up, but, Indiana's going to get a good hard look here at what its bottom line looks like when football is ultra competitive. And I think that's got to factor into any conversation about how much money you spend, not just to keep Cignetti, but keep his staff and keep resourcing the program at a competitive level.
Absolutely. Now turning toward the game, one thing that this will be interesting is Michigan does have a solid run defense. They've got a great defensive front with 3 players that are possibly NFL draft types. Now, unfortunately for them, while they're 23rd in run defense, they are 95th in passing yards allowed, and that has really been the fly in the ointment for Michigan's defense this season.
Yeah, I would say a couple things. First of all, they have struggled a little bit more lately defending the run, and I think there's a few reasons for that. They had a stretch where in their first 5 games they only allowed one team to break 100 yards in a single game. They only allowed 2 teams to average at least 4.4 yards per carry. But if you look at the last 3 games, Illinois went for 187 and 4.9 yards per carry. Michigan State, a little bit more of a grind, 163, but only 3.88 yards per carry. So that was a little bit more of Michigan State just really trying to kind of ground and pound. And then last week, Oregon really gashed them, 176 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground, 4.8 yards per carry, roughly speaking. I think it first of all, I think the world of Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. I voted Kenneth Grant Big Ten championship MVP last year. I thought he was outstanding in that game. If you and I watched a little bit of the Oregon game live, and then I watched some of the highlights and things back. You know, Oregon had, I thought, a really effective game plan against Michigan, which was essentially spread them out, throw the ball to the sidelines, screen game, quick slants, quick outs, you know, things like that. And they kind of spread Michigan's defense out. They didn't let them load the box. And then when they would get into more advantageous down and distance situations, that's when they'd run up the middle, and they'd kind of wear, you know, if you have success going to the boundaries and use a little tempo, it's usually a defensive line that you wear out first. And so either A, you sub and the other team pulls out those really good tackles and that, you know, those really good ends because those players need a rest. And then you say, okay, those players are on the bench. Now we run it up the middle. Or B, you hit them with true tempo and you wait until they seem real tired because they haven't gotten, you know, a playoff in 6 or 7 snaps and they've been running down the field and you've been backing them up and they're easier to block. You know, and Oregon just kind of wore Michigan down. Obviously, it was 7-7 after the first quarter. I pulled up the box score here just to double check my numbers before I spit out something wrong. But Oregon scored 3 touchdowns in that second quarter, and that was kind of the game. And I think if you're Indiana, there are probably some elements of that Oregon game plan that you can repeat, frankly. You talk about Michigan's pass defense. It does not sound like Will Johnson is going to play this weekend. I think Jair Hill might, but it sounds like he's banged up and is going to just play through it. So, you know, you're already down probably Michigan's best corner, and their second best might be on the field, but might be kind of less than 100%. So there's opportunities to attack there. You know, I think that Indiana has been so good, going back to what Oregon did to kind of stop Michigan. Indiana has been so good this season at keeping pressure off of its quarterbacks. You know, they are first in the conference. They've only allowed 7 sacks. There are multiple guys on that line of scrimmage or on that starting offensive line that I believe still, like Carter Smith, for example, I believe still hasn't allowed a sack yet this season. And some of that is pass blocking. Some of it's play calling. You know, the number of times Indiana runs these quick screens and swings and slants that just get that ball out really fast. That wears a pass rush down without ever allowing them to create any pressure. So I think I just think that from the perspective of how Indiana attacks Michigan, I wouldn't be shocked if they do some of the same things that Oregon did. And I think they should be able to do some of those same things. And I think that, you know, while this is probably the most talented defense and maybe just the most talented team along both lines of scrimmage Indiana's seen this year, this is probably going to be, for example, the most NFL talent Indiana's seen across the ball yet this season. There are still some pretty substantial gaps in what Michigan's able to do that Indiana should be able to fill.
And amazingly, Indiana, specifically the offensive line, which has long been their nemesis, is now, and I thought coming into the year would be their weakest link. It's one of their strongest points. What they have done is amazing. But everything has been amazing. But the amount of sacks that they have limited, the tackles for losses that they have limited, the protection they have offered the quarterbacks, it's been pretty unbelievable to see the turnaround. But it has been so crucial in Indiana's success.
Yeah, you said the offensive line, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, what I would say is I thought the offensive line improved last year, and I just thought it didn't quite convert into enough success. And so, you know, like, put it this way. I thought, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Indiana's offensive line was a real liability. Last season, when Bob Bostad kind of got his arms around it, I thought that line got a lot better. But I also thought that line, just like, and all this is interrelated. I understand that. I thought there were moments when the line was better, but still not good enough. I thought there were moments where the line was good enough and other elements of the offense just didn't take advantage. And, hey, let's be fair. If you go back to, 2023, if you go back to last season, like, Indiana still had some pretty decent games. The back half of last season, for example, Brendan Sorsby throws for 289 and 3 scores against Illinois. He scores for 269 and 3 scores against Penn State, 226 and 3 scores against Purdue. And there were some turnovers in there, and they struggled to run the ball. The point was, there were some green shoots of offensive success, and Indiana scored, 45 at Illinois, 24 at Penn State, 31 at Purdue. You felt like Indiana at least had started to figure some things out offensively, but the bottom had just kind of fallen out of the tub in some key areas. But I think that there was a lot of justification for bringing Bob Bostad back. I think there was a lot of justification for the effort Indiana made to get Mike Kadick back in the fold, to bring Carter Smith back, who, Smith's been outstanding. He's probably been one of the best left tackles in the league, if not the best. I think what you have now is a team that is basically just taking a little bit better advantage of an offensive line that has gotten better from 2022 to 2023, got noticeably better. And then from 23 to 24 got better again, and is now blocking for an offense that's better constructed, better timed, better play called. And you're seeing the results.
Yeah. And the real conversations will start next week if Indiana gets through this weekend with another win and gets to 10-0, because that will be one of, if not the biggest game in the country. And that is hard to say those words, but like Zach said, get used to it, because it has become a reality. Make sure you're giving Zach a follow, Zach Osterman, and be a subscriber to the Indy Star. Keep local papers alive, as we all do. Zach, thank you, sir. See you out there at the Memorial Stadium.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, as always, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, with more coming up, including Matt Taylor from the Colts and Mike Deal, Rose Bowl participant, IU Hall of Famer, so much more that you probably didn't know. Right after we return from these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum, Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Woo, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notifications toggle on YouTube, so you don't miss a thing. IU football postgame show coming up this weekend, of course. Coach Shannon Griffith will join me after the game. Oh, don't forget to visit Hard Truth Distillery. It's nice out there. All right, tomorrow. Dadgummit. Is it still going to rain a little bit, maybe? No bueno. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. I hope you're having a great start to your weekend because it is upon us as we have reached. It's finally Friday, and that's always a good thing. Tomorrow, of course, lots of games on the docket. Indiana, of course, hosting Michigan, as we have talked about. But we've got to go to our pick'ems as well. I haven't forgot about that. So let's pull up the old college pick'em. I'm not doing bad as far as the placing, but I'm under 500, which is kind of crazy. But I had a bad week last week. Yeah, let's see. No, it's not showing the right one. Oh, I'm not signed in. But Indiana was on there a couple weeks in a row, not this week that I saw or recalled when I made my picks this week. But hopefully I can make a surge back. And but no one is catching. Who's in front? Mr. Bowers? I'm telling you, man. I wish you would make some bets for me. He is his picks are just been pretty daggone dead on. Oh golly. But make sure you go to our ESPN College Pick'em if you're involved in that. Got a nice embroidered jacket over here, or for whoever ends up being the winner there. And a lot of games scheduled for the weekend. Some good games. Well, they're all good, but there's not a lot of big time games this weekend. There's only 6 games in the Big Ten. So kind of a light schedule. A lot of the buys hitting this time of year. There are only 3 games remaining for a lot of teams. Indiana, one of those teams that has 3 games left, but a bye. That's awesome to get a bye with 2 games. Well, it could have been good for them last week as well, having a bye, had Michigan been a better team, but it worked out perfectly. I mean, they could not have begged for a better schedule. It's crazy. The bye coming after the Michigan game in front of the Ohio State game. And as I see, I wasn't paying attention. Matt Taylor joins us from the Colts. How are you, sir?
Yo, what's up?
Yeah, I'm just sitting there running off at the mouth.
It's what you do, pal. It's all good.
Yeah, I can't help myself sometimes. I can't. I was just talking about some of the games coming up this weekend on the college slate, but of course the Colts with a big game as well as they try to get back on to the winning side of things.
No question. Yeah, you're trying to snap a 2-game losing skid and back at home after 4 or 5 on the road. But here comes one of the better teams in the AFC, maybe the NFL, and the Buffalo Bills. They're 7-2. They've won 4 games in a row. They've got a really good quarterback in Josh Allen, who's playing like an MVP candidate. 17 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, taking really good care of the football. It's going to be a tough test for the Colts this weekend.
Yeah, and I know that eventually they'll probably have Anthony Richardson back, but right now their offense is trying to find its way. Jonathan Taylor, not having him all year long. That is, even though the guys that have come in behind him have done a yeoman's job, not having him, game in, game out has to hurt.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, your three lowest rushing performances on the season have come with Joe Flacco at quarterback. Now, two of those games have not been with Jonathan Taylor, to your point, but you got to get him going. He's got to be the focal point of this offense, especially when you don't have Anthony Richardson in the backfield to pair him up with Jonathan Taylor. But I just think the more pressing issue with this offense is the passing game. Every part of the passing game has got to be better. The Colts have played 9 games, Jim. They've only been over 200 yards passing in 2 of them. And so you're not sustaining drives. You're not on the field defensively. You're not able to get off the field. You're not very good on third down on that side of the ball. All of that has contributed to a large discrepancy in time of possession. The Colts are averaging 9 minutes less per game than their opponents in terms of time of possession. That's just not a winning formula. That puts a lot of stress on your offense to be perfect and to be able to move the ball in quick chunk plays. And obviously you're not going to be able to, hit on those consistently in the NFL because defenses are pretty good and you can game plan against that. So this is a really, really big test for the Colts offensively because last time out against the Vikings, you're not only did you not reach the end zone, but you didn't reach the red zone on Sunday Night Football against the Vikings. So coming off season lows and offensive points, offensive yards, first downs, rushing yards, and obviously all of that's going to be highly scrutinized with Joe Flacco at quarterback when the Colts make a franchise pivot shift in the overall philosophy on what they're doing at the quarterback spot. Because right now it's all about a 2-month ordeal here with Joe Flacco at quarterback.
And the good news is, though, with all the adversity the Colts have gone through with whatever it has been, because they've had to deal with several different things that we've just talked about, they're sitting in second place in the division right now. And so the fact that they've been able to muddle through all of this has got to be a little bit of a boost of confidence.
Well, what gives you hope is that you still have 9 games to play, so literally the entire second half of the season. To your point, you're still in second place in the AFC South, but you're also only a game out of the AFC playoff picture. And you have some really important AFC games coming down the pike, including this one on Sunday, next Sunday against the Jets. You're going to play the Denver Broncos in about a month or so. That looks like a really important game because they're having a pretty surprisingly good season. And that game will probably hold a lot of playoff weight to it when it comes to tiebreakers and things like that, because AFC common opponents and AFC games is always factored heavily into the tie-breaking scenarios. So this is a really, really big game for the Colts. You're back at home. You're 3-1 so far this year at home. You've struggled on the road. Maybe Joe Flacco can take advantage of a defense in the Buffalo Bills that's not overly complicated, right? This is kind of the opposite of last week's defense and the Vikings that was really exotic. They blitzed a lot. They were the number 1 pressure team in the NFL. And this is a Buffalo defense that's just going to, I hate to dumb it down like this, but just so everybody can understand, they're going to play back and they're going to play a lot of nickel zone defense. They're not going to blitz a lot. And I think if you're Joe Flacco, you're looking at this saying, well, I've seen this before, right? There's nothing that he's not going to see or nothing he's going to see on Sunday, rather, that he hasn't seen before. So hopefully this is a game where the Colts can score some points and put pressure on Josh Allen to be as good as he has been this season in terms of taking good care of the football.
Yeah, and you mentioned how good Buffalo is. Josh Allen, one of the top quarterbacks, if not the top in the NFL, from a passing standpoint. Lamar Jackson definitely give him a run. Joe Burrow had that was a great game last night. We'll talk about, but Josh Allen is kind of. It's hard to imagine him as he's one of the elder statesmen of the NFL now.
Yeah, he's been in the NFL since 2018. You have to give him a great deal of credit for taking some jumps and some strides. After year 2, year 3, he's really turned himself into one of the better quarterbacks on the ledger in the AFC. No question about it. So this year, you could argue he's having his best season in the NFL because the turnover numbers are way down compared to how he's been kind of loose with the football historically. I think he ranks top 5 in both interceptions thrown and fumbles lost since he broke into the league, but he's bucking those numbers this year again with the 17 touchdowns, only the 2 picks. He's only lost 2 fumbles. And that's just what the Buffalo Bills do. That's why they are one of the better teams in the NFL right now, 7-2, because their offensive numbers aren't going to blow you away. Their defensive numbers are kind of meh, middle of the road. But when you end every possession in a kick, whether that's a PAT or field goal or a punt, and that goes a long way. And it doesn't give, the opposition sudden change and short fields and things like that when you take good care of the football. And it's almost like on offense, they're a better team. I hate to say this, but almost a better team without Stephon Diggs at the wide receiver position. Now, I'm not taking anything away from him being a great player, because he certainly is, but I think they're a little bit more efficient, and they're spreading the ball out a little bit more between the tight ends and the running backs as pass catchers, certainly the wide receivers. I think they have 10 different players on the season that have caught at least one touchdown pass, and they're kind of diverse with Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. Now, they do have a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position going into this game, so that's going to be something to monitor for sure. And maybe the Colts get a break without Coleman's availability. Curtis Samuel's banged up a little bit. Mac Hollins maybe thrusted into a bigger role at the wide receiver spot. So this is a really big game for the Colts, and possibly you might be getting Buffalo at the right time, which is weird to say because they've won 4 straight games, and they had to squeak one out last week against the Miami Dolphins on a 61-yard field goal there at the buzzer. Plus they're banged up a little bit. So you get them at home, and it's a tough place to play at Lucas Oil Stadium. Josh Allen's never played in Indianapolis. So maybe some things are on the upward arrow, if you will, for the Colts in this game, but it's still going to be a tough test.
Absolutely. And hopefully they can get past it, because that would also be a good way to propel towards the rest of the season. Did you catch the game last night? What a game between the Bengals and the Ravens, and as the Bengals go for 2 at the end of the game, which was great. And I heard Rhett Lewis and the guys talking about it afterwards, but they don't go to their playmaker. They go to a guy who was in double coverage. And I'm like,
right,
what are you doing?
Yeah, I saw the last 4 or 5 minutes or so, and thrilling game always is. Seems like those two teams always play tough games. Seems like they always play on Thursday night too, at least one of their 2 annual meetings there in the AFC North. But I agree with you. I am such a proponent of just give yourself a chance. And if the other team beats you, then you have to tip your cap to them. And I know it was a pivotal game. It's a division game, and Cincinnati is scratching and clawing, just like the Colts, to stay in the AFC playoff picture at the halfway point of the season. But that was such a swing game for the Bengals, right? Because you lose, they win. They being the Ravens, continue to distance themselves in the division away from the Bengals. I get it, you're on the road, but it's still tough to put yourself in field goal range when you have only 1 timeout and less than 40 seconds on the clock, and your defense had been making some plays in the fourth quarter. So give yourself a chance by kicking the PAT, just like Purdue last weekend in overtime, right? It's 4th and 6. You get the ball first in overtime and you go for it. Then only a field goal beats you. I didn't understand that. Sometimes I just want to go down to the sideline and I want to look college football coaches and football coaches in general in the eye and saying, what are you doing? It's okay to take points, right? Give yourself a chance to keep fighting, keep playing. It doesn't have to be all about this one play. But, I think analytics have their role. I think they serve a good purpose. But I'm not an analytic guy. I'm more of a just go with my gut feel on, take the points, let the team continue to play and win the game another way down the road.
Yeah, and Lamar Jackson continues to just impress, because you never thought of as a passer coming out of college, although he was, and he has continued to do that in the NFL. Man, when you make comebacks and win big games like that, that's what big time quarterbacks do.
Oh, without question. I mean, you really have to tip your cap to him. It's just like Josh Allen. Year by year, he has consistently grown in completion percentage. When he first came out of Louisville, he was more of a Michael Vick quarterback, or at least that's what everybody wanted to label him as. He's pigeonholed into a rushing quarterback that, would have to just make enough plays throughout the course of the game in the pocket. Now he's, completion percentage wise and passer rating wise, one of the better quarterbacks in the game and a top 5 QB. And that's why they are consistently living in the playoffs, winning the AFC North. And I think, again, big time contenders to make a big push to get back to the AFC Championship game.
Absolutely. Of course, if you'll have time, I'm sure you'll be watching Indiana and Michigan on Saturday at 3:30.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Absolutely. You going to be there?
Absolutely.
Who am I talking to? Absolutely. Right. Come on. No, it's, I'm going to be watching from the tube back at home. And, they're predicting great weather down there. I think the terrible towels are going to be out in full force again at Memorial Stadium, which is a really cool sight. Michigan, historic game. It's like this perfect cyclone of greatness for IU football, right? Because the team is performing well. The city of Bloomington's completely bought in. You've got the CBS marquee game there at 3:30. Michigan in town, the historic brand. All the history they have. It's going to be a perfect day, and hopefully the team can hold up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, this is like Indiana being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the McKay days back in whenever that was, the 80s. Was that the 80s?
Yep.
They couldn't win a raffle, but that would have been like Indiana was Tampa Bay, and then playing the Colts under Peyton Manning. That's what this series has been like with Indiana and Michigan. But now it's about to change, and Indiana fans are going to have to become accustomed to beating and competing with the Michigans and the Ohio States of the world.
No, absolutely. So, I mean, they're in a prime position right now to, stamp their ticket to the college football playoff if they take care of business in at least 2 of the next 3 games. I don't think there's any way you can hold them out if they're 11-1, and they have a really good chance to do that. But you would know better than me on this, because you live down there and you consistently go to games, and I've gone to games throughout the course of my fandom, if you will, with Pops, but I've only been to one game this year, and that was the Nebraska game, which was absolutely electric. But it just seems like everything down there, and for lack of a better term, Jim, it feels more big time. And I know the play on the field has a lot to do with that, but what I'm talking about is just the game day atmosphere, the game day Jumbotron presentation, all the on the field stuff, the concourse stuff, like everything about the stadium just seems more efficient. And I don't really have a good way to describe it, but everything just felt more big time. And again, not to be too critical, but there were times in the past, a decade ago, and you go down there and it felt like you were at a minor league baseball game. You know what I'm saying?
Best. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great analogy.
And now it just feels like less gimmicky and way more big time because of how Indiana has changed things around and how they perceive themselves, and rightfully so.
Absolutely. And it should be, you're right. I mean, and having Big Noon Kickoff come in and College Game Day come in, and Pat McAfee talking about Kurt Cignetti all the time. And he's on, Kurt Cignetti's on with Dan Patrick. You can't turn around without seeing Kurt Cignetti someplace. I think the only person that hasn't talked to him yet might be you.
Yeah, he doesn't turn down many interviews, which he's a great PSA for the college and the university and the program. And I've watched most of the stuff that he does, so I feel like I can answer these questions for him, because he gets 9 times out of 10 he gets the same neighborhood of questions, and I feel like I could answer him for him. But he toes the line, but also exudes that confidence, and it shows up every Saturday.
Yeah, and this is going to be just a big time fun environment for everyone involved. Like you said, wish you could come down, but you've got to get prepared for your deal on Sunday, man. But glad that you can take some time out, because I think you're going to enjoy it.
Will do, brother. I appreciate you. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the game.
Thank you. Matt Taylor with the Indianapolis Colts. Make sure you give him a follow and keep up as he brings you the coverage for all the action of Big Blue for the brand. We've got more coming up, trying to get Mike on with us, Mike Deal, to join us here next after these messages from the Hard Truth. Make sure you visit Hard Truth Distilling Company. It's a great place to go. 325 acres in beautiful rolling southern Indiana in Nashville and Brown County. ATV tours, distillery tours, live music, cabins. You can stay overnight, full service restaurant, and of course, great spirits like the Hard Truth, Sour Mash Bourbons, and so much more. We're back with more right after this. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So, no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Woohoo! It's finally Friday. I wish I could play music on here. Ooh, Russell going way back. Way back. Well, style point. They've got a lot of style points. They've beaten the crap out of everybody. Literally. They need to do it again against Michigan. I mean, and put a beat down on them. That would definitely open Ryan Day's eyes. His eyes are probably already open, but beating Ohio State is going to change everything. If Indiana beats Ohio State, they will host a college football playoff game. They won't just be in it. They will host a game, and that's including if they were to get to the Big Ten championship and lose. That would not impact that. They would still host a game. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. We're trying to get connected with Mike Deal, a member of the 1967 Rose Bowl team for a former Indiana player. He's a Hall of Famer, IU Hall of Famer. His father played on the 1945 Indiana Big Ten championship team. And if you've ever been to Bloomington, there's a place called the Alley Bar. If you go in there, they have this incredible, gigantic, oversized poster picture of some of the 1967 players in the old stadium. It's about 4 foot tall by 10 foot wide, and you can see. I think it's Russ Deal. I don't know if they called him Mark back then or not. I can't remember, but Mark is. There's another Deal, Mark Deal, that we know. And then the two sons, Mark's one of the sons, and then Mike's another son. And Mike played on the 67 Rose Bowl team. Mark is younger, played in the 70s and coached and for Indiana's, and still around the program. But Mike has had a long football career. Once he left Indiana, he was drafted as signed as a free agent with the Redskins, but got into coaching and would end up coaching at Davidson, Marshall, Kansas State, Illinois, Texas. And it looks like I'm just going to have to call him. And he's having trouble signing on. So we're going to have to do this on the old-fashioned way. That's funny to say that.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, Mike, I've got you on the air, just so you know. And I just said, hey, people, don't worry. We're just going to do this the old-fashioned way, which is kind of funny to call it the old-fashioned way. But I was just listing out some of first of all, your father was on the 45 Indiana team, undefeated, along with some great guys like George Taliaferro and Ted Klaczewski, IU Hall of Famer himself. And then you come along and are on the 67 Rose Bowl team. Your brother, Mark, I talked about him and his involvement. I've known Mark for a while. But your career in football went way beyond after that. I mean, you played in the Blue Gary All-Star game, and your father did as well, I noticed. How many times has that ever happened? Do you know?
I don't know. We like you say, we both played in the Blue Gray game, and just sort of followed in his footsteps, and just how it happened. It just happened.
Yeah, that's one of those incredible things. And the fact that your father and both yourself and your brother are in the IU Hall of Fame, that's another, I guess you guys must be the first family of IU football. That makes that pretty easy.
That's pretty neat. That's a really a nice honor for the trio.
Absolutely. And I was listing the schools where you coached, and I didn't even finish. Kansas State, I got to there, Illinois, Texas, Vandy, Arizona, coached in the Citrus Bowl, Hall of Fame Bowl, the Sun Bowl, the Holiday Bowl, Liberty Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, won Big 10 championship, Big 12 championship, Southwest Conference championship. That's a pretty extensive resume.
I've been around the block. It was, you get into the college coaching cycle, win and move, lose and move, one way or the other, you're moving.
Yeah. I said, man, Mike's got more rings than planet Saturn.
And then I got to coach in NFL Europe. So I got to coach overseas for 2 years when, the NFL was doing that program, trying to develop players over there.
Yeah. Was that in Scotland?
Yeah, I was in Scotland Claymores.
That had to be a unique experience, American football in Scotland.
That was fun. It was just flat out fun because, while you wanted to win games, that wasn't your charge. Coaching the offensive line, my charge was because I had an offensive center from the Vikings. This guy was from the Chiefs. This guy was from all different clubs, and I was to develop them. And, like I would say to him, it doesn't make any difference whether we win or lose the game for you. It makes a difference how you play. And I have to write a report on them every week. I said, we could win 49-0 and you played crappy. Well, that's not, I'm talking to your line coach back in the States every Monday to tell him how you did.
That's never going to be good. So what are you up to now? Where are you? I'm assuming you're in the Florida area.
Yes, we're so we're sitting out in our driveway right now waiting for our contractor to come over and give us an update. Our house is unlivable. So we're slowly making progress on, trying to get back to normal life. But the island's pretty screwed up here. Yeah,
I know that it basically took a direct hit, but you also got hit twice there because that was right in that area that got you twice. And ironically, then one of our sponsors, the Ugly Grouper, is right there.
Yeah. Those are you guys from Bloomington.
Yes, sir.
Scott Rowland's part owner.
Yep.
just good guy. I mean, that's just right within walking distance of where I'm sitting right now.
Oh man! Well, make sure you're talking to him on Indiana Sports Beat Radio and remind him that we appreciate him very much.
Okay.
And hopefully they're taking care of you guys. Yeah, well, I'll take care of that. Just let me know when you're going over there. For certain. So let's talk about the Rose Bowl quickly. You played in the Rose Bowl, and that has stood for it's still standing, but it's up until now. Even though there was some success during Bill Mallory era, there wasn't that kind of success. So that has been the high point of Indiana football, the history of Indiana football, and that had to be glorious to be a part of that.
Oh, it was. It was, and a total surprise, similar to this year. I mean, we were 1-2-9, 2-8, 1-9, whatever the year before, and not much was expected of Indiana football, and all of a sudden things took off and kept rolling. I mean, it was totally unexpected. I mean, of course, even as a player, you think, okay, we can win, we can do this, we can do that, and but for the fan out there, it was like, oh well, we'll see what happens again this year.
When did it become a reality to the team that, hey man, we've got a shot to do something special here?
After we went over to Illinois and beat Illinois, that's when I think that was I don't even remember, 4th or 5th game or something like that, and then it was like, we just kept winning. I mean, we won. I mean, the press was with Harry and John and Jade. That's who got all the press. But sure, we were winning games 14-3, close games right at the end. We won with the defense, but if we didn't have Harry Gonzo to make plays, John to run the ball, and Jade to catch the ball, then we were going to, we couldn't pull it out there towards the end, and we had those guys were able to do that for us. But we won because of our defense.
Well, let's talk about the team this year. I know you've probably been following them as best you can, dealing with the hurricane situation, which obviously is not fun to go through. But I'm certain because of your brother, as well as your relationship to IU football, it's hard not to know what's going on in Bloomington right now.
Oh, I know it. I mean, I've watched them. I haven't watched every game. Of course, they were on Peacock last week, so I don't get to get Peacock with a Big Ten screwing that up. But, I mean, they're good. I mean, just flat out good. I mean, you watch them, and they're good on offense. They're good on defense. They're good. Just, it's he picked. I mean, with the way the football world is in today's world. I mean, it's obviously different than when we played, and you develop the players, and you were there for 4 or 5 years, and now it's with the NIL and transfer portal, it's a revolving door, but Kurt definitely picked the right players.
Yeah, and it has to be fun to watch this team succeed like they have. And this weekend they'll go up against the Michigan Wolverines, in which they're actually a 2-score favorite. And then next game out will be against Ohio State. So, and then Purdue. So the 3 biggest games of the year, when you come to a rivalry standpoint, are coming in succession.
Yeah. I mean, they're a better team than Michigan. So, never say never, but they're going to win that game, and then they got a chance to beat Ohio State. They may be just as good as they are.
Yeah, I think that Indiana is actually a more complete team, and I think that they go to Columbus and upset them because of that. But that is a tough environment to play in. But the great thing about this team, Mike, is they've not been affected by outside noise. They've been able to keep the blinders on and keep the earmuffs on and just play football.
Yeah, they sure have. I mean, that's a tribute to the leadership. Kurt's done a good job. We go back a little ways in coaching, and so we know one another. And of course, he knows Mark. And when Mark was was at Rutgers. I forget where Kurt was at that time, but we're familiar with one another.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a good coach, and in fact, Mark, when Mark was in the office and Kurt came in and saw Mark, and he looked at Mark. He says, "What are you doing here?" And Mark says, "I work here." And he says, "Where's Mike?" So it's sort of a that kind of relationship. That's
funny that you already had a relationship. How did that start? Do you remember where it was?
Probably some football convention, and at the conventions each year, and seeing this guy, and all of a sudden that guy, and you get hooked up, and you're sitting around in the lobby shooting the breeze with a bunch of guys, and that's just how you make connections in the business.
When that hire was announced, having known him somewhat and having been around him, what were your thoughts? Because the history of IU football.
Yeah, well, I think it was a good pick. I mean, we had lost contact, so we weren't. It's not like we're close friends, but we were definitely coaching acquaintances. And you got to say, well, shoot, why not go with a guy that's successful at Division II at 1AA, and then James Madison. He's a proven, like he says, Google me. I mean, he's a proven winner, and why not go that direction instead of some coordinator from someplace or a head coach that's he's looking for a second chance. And Indiana, in yesteryear, Indiana would have been the only kind of guy that would hire him. That kind of thing. No, I think it was a good move they made hiring him.
Well, it's certainly been a great move to talk to you. I've had a blast. I could sit here probably all day and keep going, but I appreciate you taking some time to talk with us. And I hate that you're having to deal with that hurricane, because I know that it is no fun. Lots of rebuilding for everybody down there, and we are all thinking of you guys. But the next time you're going to go over to the grouper, let me know, and I'll make sure you get that free beer and a free dinner to go with it.
Sounds good. And speaking of restaurants, somebody needs to buy Cafe Pizzeria and open that back up again. I can't believe that closed.
Yes, I was going to kind of throw a joke out there that it's now called Shalubi's, but that's a joke that's running around on the internet here that people just ran with a fake restaurant, and it's been kind of glorious. But yeah, I agree with you. I can't imagine it will sit empty long.
At least we got Nick's.
There you go, and plenty more. So thanks a lot, Mike Deal. Appreciate you.
Thanks for calling, and great talking to you.
You as well, sir. We'll do it again. I can't wait. There's the great Mike Deal, IU Hall of Famer, son of a Hall of Famer, brother to a Hall of Famer. Man, that's the first family of Indiana football, as I said. His father, Russ, on the 45 undefeated team. His brother, it was younger than he was, Mark, and still involved with the football program, has been since the 70s. And appreciate Mark and all his help that he gives us as well. And great talking to Mike. What a great conversation that was. Didn't know he already knew Signetti coming into this season, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, man, big game tomorrow for the Indiana Hoosiers. 3:30 game, so everybody gets to tailgate a little bit more. I'm sure they're going to enjoy the heck out of that. So get out there, enjoy it. Don't forget the Indiana football post-game show after the game, after the press conferences. It's usually at least a half hour. So just chill out, relax. We'll get something to eat, relax, and we'll be ready to go. But looking forward to it with Coach Griffith. And big thanks to Todd Lirry, Zach Osterman, Matt Taylor, and Mike Deal for joining us on the program today. And most importantly, each and every one of you, thank you so much. Until tomorrow, this is Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.